こいつを耐えている。いけ
Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokémon Journeys episode 124, the Semifinals III, Valor. This was the 1209th episode of the Pokemon anime, and it actually aired 12 years to the day that the last episode of the Diamond and Pearl series first aired, and it looks like Ash's dream of battling Cynthia in that episode has finally come true. Let's break down part 2 of their battle. The episode starts with Ash recalling Pikachu after getting knocked out. They really make a big deal about Ash being down 3 Pokemon while Cynthia has only lost 2. I mean, that doesn't sound like that big of a gap to me, but alright. Ash is staying pretty calm, he's still focused on winning. Meanwhile, Team Rocket are so engrossed in the battle that they've moved up as far as they can in order to get closer to the action. Well, meanwhile, Morpeko just keeps mowing down Old Gateau throughout this entire episode. Just before we get back into the action, we see Leon and Diantha comment on how we haven't seen any battle gimmicks activated yet, and that will be the key to deciding this battle. Ash sends in Dracovish as his 4th Pokemon, while Cynthia brings out Garchomp for the first time in this battle. Ash is wary about Cynthia using Mega Evolution already, but she is keeping her cards close to the vest, not giving off anything to her opponent. Dracovish charges in with an Ice Fang, but Garchomp dodges and uses Dragon Claw. After landing some super effective damage, Cynthia calls for Stealth Rock, a new addition to Garchomp's moveset. Having executed her plan with Garchomp, Cynthia switches out her Pokemon once again. Roserade re-enters the battle, and as over a dozen people pointed out to me in the comments last week, Roserade is no longer burned, thanks to its ability, Natural Cure. Dracovish is feeling extra fired up though, and Ash has a charge in with Vicious Rend, but Roserade is too quick, hitting it with Poison Jab before Dracovish can make contact. It perseveres though, and clamps its jaws down on Roserade with enough force to send both Pokemon flying backwards. Dracovish did get poisoned from this exchange, but it's not backing down. In fact, Meowth tells us that Dracovish is angry, and that it wants to take down Roserade by itself. Cynthia calls for Leaf Storm, while Ash has Dracovish charge straight into the eye of the storm while using Dragon Rush. Dracovish is able to break through and hit Roserade head on, and oh my god, what an impact. There's no way Roserade survives that. Sure enough, Roserade is down for the count, which brings Ash and Cynthia back level. See, I told you there wasn't such a big gap between them. Dracovish is still poisoned though, so Ash tries to recall it, but Dracovish refuses, and Ash understands that it wants to keep on battling. Team Rocket get all emotional over this display of bravery, kinda reminded me of how they used to cheer for Infernape back at the Sinnoh League. Cynthia isn't surprised to see Ash interact with his Pokemon in this way, and she sends out Milotic, her last Pokemon to enter the battle. Ash doesn't waste time and calls for another Dragon Rush. Cynthia counters with Disarming Voice, which does slow Dracovish down, but doesn't stop it completely. Cynthia takes matters into her own hands though, having Milotic charge in and wrap itself around Dracovish. Yeah, that'll stop it in its tracks, while Dracovish continues to take poison damage. An Iron Head versus Vicious Rend collision causes a huge explosion of power. Both Pokemon are sent flying, and while Milotic hangs on, that's all she wrote for Dracovish. It put up a really good fight, and I still feel like things are relatively even at this point of the battle, even though Cynthia has regained the numbers advantage. We didn't actually see that last exchange of moves before, but now we do, while Diantha comments on how Milotic is probably pretty close to being done for too. Ash's 5th Pokemon is Sirfetch'd, who immediately gets hit by the Stealth Rocks that Garchomp had set up earlier. Ash's first instinct is to do something about the Stealth Rocks, and he calls for Brutal Swing, and Sirfetch'd throws its shield around so fast that it acts as a Rapid Spin attack. And if you don't know how that works in the games, Rapid Spin clears the field of entry hazards, such as Stealth Rock. Cynthia can't believe what she's seeing, and quite frankly, I can't believe she even bothered to use Stealth Rock in the first place so late into the battle when she already knows that Ash doesn't switch his Pokemon very often. Anyways, Milotic fires a Hydro Pump before Sirfetch'd has its shield back, but it deftly leaps out of the way, catches its shield in midair, and charges in with Fury Cutter. Milotic meets it head on with Iron Head, but Sirfetch'd uses its shield to block and gain leverage, allowing it to deal some damage with Fury Cutter. Cynthia immediately calls for Disarming Voice, while Ash has Sirfetch'd take the hit so we can start charging up a Meteor Assault. Their perseverance pays off, and Sirfetch'd lands massive damage on Milotic, which is enough to knock it out, and I only have one thing to say to that. We're now down to 2 Pokemon each, and at this point, I was ready to call it. Ash has this thing in the bag. Lucario hasn't even been sent out yet. It's over for Cynthia. Ash and Cynthia exchange a few words before restarting the match. Nothing crazy, just both trainers saying that they are going to win. Cynthia brings Garchomp back out, and Ash once again questions if now is the time that she's going to Mega Evolve her Garchomp. She doesn't, and Ash has Sirfetch'd charge in with Fury Cutter. Garchomp sends a Scale Shot Sirfetch'd way, but if anything, I feel like this only helped it to build up its Fury Cutter. It reaches Garchomp having taken no damage at all, and Garchomp is forced to block the attack with Dragon Claw. It puts so much force into this that it sends Sirfetch'd flying, and Garchomp closes in to attack. Ash counters with Detect, and man, I love Sirfetch'd. It effortlessly dodges Garchomp's attack in midair, and Ash immediately has it start charging up for another Meteor Assault. Cynthia calls for Draco Meteor, and Sirfetch'd does what Iris and Haxorus should have done in their battle. They just aim straight for Garchomp, disregarding the Draco Meteor. Sirfetch'd closes in, and this Meteor collision, get it? Okay, that one was terrible. Anyways, both Pokemon take massive damage. There's a long dramatic pause here, and for a second, it looks like Sirfetch'd has just beaten Cynthia's Garchomp, but it turns out that it only staggered Garchomp. It's still good to go. Sirfetch'd, on the other hand, yeah, it's out on its feet, given the Incineroar treatment and declared unable to battle, still standing up. Cynthia decides to recall Garchomp at this point, probably her last substitution of the match. Diantha is surprised to have not seen Mega Evolution yet, but Leon has figured out that Cynthia has something up her sleeve. Literally, as we're about to find out. Ash is down to his last Pokemon, and Lucario enters the fray for the first time. Cinderace forces its way out of its Pokeball to cheer for its friend. I thought this was a nice moment, although it did linger a bit longer than I expected it to. Togekiss re-enters the battle after a long time. It's still basically fresh after not doing much against Pikachu in the last episode. Lucario's Bullet Punch is met by Air Slash, but Lucario batters it away, which fires up Ash's Pokemon back at Oak's lab. Lucario breaks through Togekiss's attack and gains the upper ground, which allows it to land some damage. Cynthia isn't surprised to see Ash and Lucario working so well together, and when Ash calls for an Aura Sphere, Cynthia has Togekiss disrupted with another Air Slash. This cuts off Lucario's attack, but it doesn't flinch. It's interesting to note that we haven't had Lucario's ability confirmed as of yet. It can either have Steadfast, which raises Pokemon's speed after it flinches, or Inner Focus, which just prevents flinching altogether. Of course, when Lucario Mega Evolves, its ability becomes Adaptability, which just increases its same type attack bonus. In this instance, Lucario doesn't flinch and is able to go right back to using Bullet Punch. I guess this could be a sign that its ability is Inner Focus. Lucario is looking pretty good at this point, so that means it's time for Cynthia to shake things up. She recalls Togekiss, not to switch it out. Oh no. Instead, Cynthia reveals her Dynamax band, and out of nowhere, she Dynamaxes her Togekiss. Wow. Lucario looks unfazed. It's taken down multiple Gigantamax Pokemon before, and Ash is fired up as well. On this dramatic cliffhanger, the episode comes to a close. As expected, an action-packed episode filled with nothing but battling, and I thought it was great. Although I wasn't the biggest fan of how this battle started out in the last episode, I thought we really picked things up this time around. I was excited to see Dracovish and Sirfetch'd in action, and I thought they carried this episode with how good they were. After being probably the 2 least important members of Ash's team up to this point in the series, they really proved their worth this time around. Dracovish was able to take a hit from Garchomp, go toe-to-toe with Roserade, and come out on top, and still land massive damage to Milotic. Sirfetch'd came in and cleared out the Stealth Rocks before finishing off Milotic, and it did way better than it had any right to against Cynthia's Garchomp. Whatever training Ash has been doing with this Pokemon before the tournament has really paid off. Sirfetch'd was awesome in this battle. It even got me, even for like a quarter of a second, to actually believe that it might have defeated Cynthia's Garchomp. It didn't, but Sirfetch'd certainly put up a good fight, and I think the best way to celebrate is to just say,
come on. Yum.
I did want to talk about Cynthia's strategy. Quite frankly, it was just worse than her performance in the last episode. The reveal of her Natural Cure tactic was cool. I can't believe I didn't see that coming last episode. I just think Natural Cure is such a useless ability in the game since I always play through games casually and use tons of items. I just never have any need for Natural Cure, so it was not top of mind for me last week. Beyond that though, Cynthia's Stealth Rock strategy made basically no sense, which I already mentioned. I feel like they only included that just so they could have the moment of Ash clearing the Stealth Rock away with Sirfetch'd. It basically played no role in the battle at all. Then, Milotic was the only Pokemon that Cynthia never switched out at all during the battle. Well, not counting Gastrodon, but that got KO'd so fast, she never even had a chance to switch it out. I'm not really going to penalize Cynthia for not switching out. It just seemed odd to me that this was the one time she kept her Pokemon in, especially since it seemed like Garchomp versus Dracovish was working out pretty well for her. more. I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining about Cynthia not being strong enough. In fact, I actually really like this because it made Ash look amazing being able to keep up the pace in this battle, never falling more than one step behind Cynthia. Even though this episode wanted to make it seem like Ash was at an insurmountable disadvantage, I thought he did an excellent job keeping this battle extremely close, and at times even looking like he had the upper hand. Another thing this episode really tried to convince us of was that Cynthia was inevitably going to Mega Evolve her Garchomp. They brought it up so many times that I was convinced it wasn't going to happen, and sure enough, Cynthia ends up using Dynamax instead. I will say straight off the bat that I am so disappointed this got spoiled ahead of time. I hate spoilers so much, and ultimately this was one I couldn't avoid. Cynthia Dynamaxing Togekiss got leaked ahead of time this week, and my heart just dropped when I saw that. It takes away so much of my enjoyment watching this episode when I feel like I know exactly what is going to happen. So this twist ending to the episode wasn't really a twist for me at all. Beyond the whole spoiler nonsense, which isn't exactly a critique on the episode itself, I'm still not sure how I feel about Cynthia Dynamaxing her Togekiss in this battle. On the one hand, it's really cool to see that Cynthia is the only other trainer in the Masters tournament besides Ash to use more than one gimmick. It makes her look strong and gave us the surprise reveal in this episode. Being able to include more twists and turns to a battle is almost always a good thing. On the other hand, this means that Cynthia is not going to Mega Evolve her Garchomp, and I think everyone is almost certain that this battle is going to come down to Garchomp versus Lucario. And now Garchomp isn't even going to be at its absolute strongest. I'm going to leave this debate open-ended, and I mean, the battle isn't even over yet. How could I possibly make a conclusive decision on whether or not I like this move when I haven't even seen it play out yet? I can't wait to see how this battle shakes out in the next episode, and then maybe I'll be able to have a more definitive stance on how I feel about all of this. For now though, it's time for me to wrap up my discussion about this episode, and overall, I really enjoyed it. For like the 1 billionth time, battles are my favorite part of the Pokemon anime, and this was an awesome battle episode. So I'm giving this episode an 8.5 out of 10 rating. With that said, we can move on to the preview for the next episode, which is going to be the conclusion to Ash versus Cynthia. As expected, Ash is going to be Mega Evolving his Lucario, and I already said this earlier, I think Ash has this battle in the bag. I think there's no way he loses. Of course, I'm excited to hear your predictions down in the comments, but I am super excited to see Ash and Lucario pull out the victory next week. Before we get to the next episode though, I think I'm going to try something out over the weekend. I want to do a test stream just to, well, test some things out, so I might go live on YouTube on Saturday around 2 p.m. US Central Time. That might mean I'm live when you're watching this video, or maybe I already finished streaming if you're watching this days after the fact. Regardless, I'm not going to make this a public stream since it's just a test, so be sure to join my Discord server so you can join in on the fun. I'll share the link in there, and I hope to see you in the chat as I play through Pokemon Heart Gold and answer any questions you guys may have. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Shout out as always to my channel members, and be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time.